welcome everyone who's listening right now to this podcast channel. It's the first podcast recording for 2023. I'm so excited to have Erwin Diaz here today, and he will be speaking to us about rage and resolution, the art of de-escalation. Being able to identify the rage within you and then also identify the rage within others. So we're going to learn more about Erwin in a moment, and certainly and then talk a little bit about the topic, which is groundbreaking, because Erwin recently presented at one of my workshops, at one of my monthly events, and it was sensational. So just before we get started with the questions, I just wanted to introduce you as to how did I meet Erwin. And it was in 2020 in a nice coffee shop in Homebush West in Sydney, Australia. And one of our mutual friends, Thu, he actually introduced us and said, I think you should meet, you both should meet. I think there might be synergy in what we do. And as a result, we had enjoyed a really nice cup of coffee at that cafe. I got to know each other. And then from then on, our friendship has formed and we're well established until now. And certainly working with Erwin over the years, and watching his progression, career transition out of Qantas and where he is moving through it to now. So certainly you will know more about his background in a moment. What I loved about him is that throughout in the last few years, he's certainly such a positive person and so genuine and so caring. And when you were at the event recently, you really provided a sensational talk where you engaged everyone in the room, and you took everybody on this journey, and it was like creating a piece of music, and it started and ended on a perfect note. So that's how I know Erwin. But professionally, if you just going off his LinkedIn profile, he is a rage and resolution consultant, a customer service manager, operations manager, trainer, and super passionate about transforming rage and resolution in the customer experience. And more importantly, with more than 30 years experience working at Qantas. So here we are today, and I'm going to start with the first question for you, is to really just let us know a signature story in your career and the key lesson you learned from that story.
Yes. First, I'd like to say, Leonie, that the feeling is mutual. It's been a great experience to have met you, and thank you to Food for introducing us. I'm, been having lots of fun, especially in the presentation that you and I had. And I was so glad that people were actually willing to participate. Actually, that was great. And look, regarding the rage and resolution, it's something that actually is a natural progression about us being human and having emotions. When we are put in a place of pressure and undue and unexpected pressure, some people react in different ways, and depending on the kind of emotional, let's say, centeredness that you have, is how a solution will come to you on that particular time. First of all, I have to say it has been a privilege meeting you. Leonie, it's great to have such a ally in all this. You can be as positive as you want, but somebody has got to really believe in you, and you have believed that I have something to offer, and so do I. And it's a pleasure being here to that. Now, the story that I most remember from my time just before I left Qantas was when COVID hit, and I was flying over to Singapore. I flew from Melbourne, and by the time we're in Singapore, so many things have changed because the COVID crisis had escalated to a point that nobody in the world could have anticipated. So when we arrived there, as a manager, I arrived with my crew and, of course, the pilots in front of me, and they were checking on anyone that had been in Japan and the Philippines. Now, as travelers and international airline, a lot of their crew in three different aircraft had been in Japan and the Philippines in the past week. So they were banned immediately, you know, and that from the plane where I was managing, we were left without a captain and without two crew. And from the other two planes, we had a first officer and three other crew and so on. In total, it was something like eight or nine crew that the officials in Singapore said, no, you don't comply. You've been in Singapore and you've been in Japan and the Philippines. Now, the captain came in a very agitated way to say, oh, Erwin, they're not letting us in and they're not budging, you know. So, and this is where my experience as a manager and having a situational awareness that you can project. I had to try to find a resolution to a crisis that I had not known previous experience either. So what I did try to do right there is project what was going to happen if we were not allowed in. What would that turn into? And I realized that I had to let the officials know that that meant that the next day, because we didn't have enough crew to fulfill 3 planes heading back to Australia, there were going to be about 1,500 people stranded in Singapore airport. Now, I asked to speak to the supervisor, and then the supervisor wanted to speak to the head of health ministry to say, well, you at the moment, you have got a crisis with 9 people. If you don't let us in or we create some sort of resolution, tomorrow you're going to have to deal with 1,500 passengers that are not going to go anywhere, you know? And because of that time, it was like nobody knew, really. Nobody really had an exact model of what needed to be done, you know? Later on, isolation hotels came on and all that when people had more time to react. But at that time, there was nothing. So I did explain to the officials, say, listen, tomorrow you're going to have the same issue, but with 1,500 people. We got to find a solution. You know, we got to find. So we virtually had to make up and improvise with the Minister of Health in Singapore right there to say, listen, I realize you're right. We will have a mayhem tomorrow with so many passengers here not able to go because Qantas wouldn't have had enough time to send replacements for technical crew or cabin crew. So what we'll do is we'll create this unique, procedure in which we'll take all those 9 people, put them in a hotel. They have to sign virtually a contract to say at no time they will leave their room for the entire day. The next day, only right and cold time, they will come back into the airport and that's it. And then they will leave. That was the condition. So at least that was a solution, and 1,500 people were not stranded the next day. Yeah.
Thank you. And what was the key takeaway for you in that story?
First of all, remaining calm, remaining calm and thinking, if I threw my arms in the air, so if I raise my voice, which is all part of the escalation, crisis and resolution training, if I raise my voice to the official, if I started shouting at them, or if I start with any kind of threatening talk, what we'll do, they'll just shut down, you know, and having for you to remind yourself, no, you have to be part of the solution. Stay on the solution zone. Not the problem zone. Don't get away from the problem, but stay in the solution zone. And just by having that intention and being honest to the officials that actually you are working with them. You're not working against them. Actually, you're working with them. You're trying to make something that they're also not prepared for, because this caught everyone by surprise. You know, so for me to say, my key learning from there was there's never a them and us. It just is, and you have to be part of the solution, not part of the problem.
Yes, working together.
Working together.
Yes, working together. Yeah, it's definitely a moment to remember and to be very quick and on your feet to actually come up with a solution that's going to make everyone happy.
Well, yeah, you had to improvise, and and this is something typical. It's something typical that we go in the exercise of this training course, is that you have to be aware of your voice. You have to be aware of, if the person is shouting at you, then you need to remain calm and don't raise your voice, because that means you are following that into the wrong corner. You have to remain calm and let them know that the pitch of your voice is assertive but calm, very calm, and then people react to that. You remain polite, you remain part of the solution, and you remain calm, and that turns people around just about 100% of the time.
So you've given us a clue a bit about your experience at Qantas, but please tell us a bit more about your career, your journey so far, and more importantly, why do you like to talk about rage and resolution?
Yeah, it is really, it's because it's everywhere. You see it on the television, you see it in the air. There's rage in the street, there's rage at home, and the thing is, it could happen to anyone. And I looked at that in my life. I looked at not only in customer service, but in domestic. You see news people stopping by the side of the road and punching each other. You've seen the cases of air rage. I certainly experienced many. So I decided to do something about it. And in my life, I had to create a model in which you are trained. You train yourself to remain calm. And it's like if you were, let's say, to give you an analogy, if you were a boxer, you wouldn't go in the ring before having lots of sparring, lots of training, lots of running for fitness. So when that time of that fight approaches and comes, you are ready. And that's what I mean. Also, where it is where readiness meet opportunities is also when it's success. And sometimes it's where readiness also meet an issue, meet a problem. So you are ready, you are prepared, physically, emotionally, so it's not foreign to you, it is unfortunate, that aggression also, as human beings, because we don't do that for living, as human beings, when someone is confronted with an aggressive tone or physical aggression, your brain shuts down. Yeah, and it's a natural thing, because the brain is trying to protect you, right? Sometimes people faint depending on their trauma, sometimes, but if you train yourself to actually being able to be calm, act calm first, I suppose, then train, then you be calm, then you are a calm person. Your whole perspective would be, yes, I can handle this. You have the intention of being part of the solution. So therefore, you already become an influencer into that issue. You are part of the solution, and remain there. And so many times, in my experience, in international experience, you have to also be aware of the culture. Different people for different cultures react differently. Some people are from different cultures are calm by themselves. Others are quite aggressive. They're more egotistical, loud, and you don't have to be afraid. They're just loud from where they come from. I know in South America, even different parts of South America, their culture in itself, they're all different. We're all different. So when you can imagine flying, let's say, from Qantas to different, to the Western Hemisphere, to the Asian, to the Asian part of the world, also to Africa. Everyone sort of reacts different to different things. Some are more obliging, some are more polite, some others are very shy, and you have to get them out of that in order to find a solution, you know.
So going back to the first part of the question, really want to know more about your career at Qantas. So where did you start all the, and then particularly, what happened at the end?
Look, just before I started in Qantas, I used to be also a manager for PepsiCo, and the contract finished, and I ended up applying for Qantas, and you know, I got in. I had the experience they wanted, you know, regarding customer service, and you know, and a very good idea about excelling in that, and an idea about being a, you know, a brand ambassador and all that. So I spent quite a few years, let's say, learning my craft and remaining sometimes calm in the face of you know, pressure, you know, because we always had to deal with the you know, like I say, aviation is a fickle business, and you do a lot of waiting. Sometimes you are you know, you're vulnerable to nature, you know, to, let's say, volcanoes. You know, a lot of our planes sometimes go grounded because the volcano erupted or war erupted. I remember being on the ground in Frankfurt and having to negotiate our passengers being released, allowed to go through the airport because it had become a military zone. You know, things like that. All that I started learning. I started looking at people who had more experience than me. I started looking at something that I was looking at, how it looked so frightful to me around about that time. But for these people, it was just every day, you know, bread and butter. And I thought to myself, how do they do that? How do they remain? You know? And it was very much that, having confidence in yourself, remaining calm, and asking questions, and being part of the solution in a lot of things. So as I progressed further and further, I went into, you know, supervisory role. You know, you learn how to motivate your team, how to promote the safety that is required. Qantas has a high safety record, and they excel in service. So you are their leader. You actually have to be the example, the model to that. And I think I did that very well as I kept being promoted, and finally I arrived. They call it CSM, but it's customer service manager. I finally arrived as a manager there. And I would have furthered myself even more. I had intentions of being, you know, seconded to different countries, but it never happened after COVID hit. And it was a shame because I had never the intention of leaving the airline. I very much enjoyed the dynamics that an international airline gave you, you know, with not only with customers, but also with peers at home. And certainly it was never stale, you know, it was always different. Every flight is different. You tackle different issues, whether it's technical, whether it's customer service wise, whether it's passenger wise, whether it's whatever, your crew just arrived, turned sick, bad news. So you're always dealing with something, you know, that you have to create a solution for in the spur of the moment, you know.
Yes.
Now,
yes.
So sort of I grabbed all that experience, and through all the exposure and also courses that you go along as a manager in Qantas themselves, in the college, Qantas College. And you know, you have a lot of learning to do. And also they allow you as a manager later on to actually apply what you've learned. You know, they're always looking for initiative. They were always looking for something new, and thinking outside of the square or the circle, how people call it, you know. So that's how I arrived there, you know. And the more you do it, the more confidence that the senior management had on you, and the more they trusted you with, you know.
Yes. Now, I think what I really like about your background clearly is the career progression you've made at Qantas. And then when we talk about rage, you know, in customer service training, as you know, if you're working for a bank and the customer walks in, and you can deal with the customer, and you can, you know, invite them to leave the bank if they're becoming very, very rude. But on the plane, it's a different story. You can't throw someone out the plane.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's a different level of service that you actually need to provide in a way that that individual or maybe a group of people does not impact the other passengers throughout the flight. That could be short or long. And certainly that's what's brought me to invite you along last year to the event to talk about rage and resolution. So I'd love to hear an example, a simple example, how teaching rage and resolution has helped one of your clients, and maybe an individual or a company.
Yes, I did train a council a couple of years ago, and then it was very for them, it was a very imperative for them to skill their counselor, the members, to cope with what the rage in the street. For example, parking officers were getting abused and attacked. So was librarians who were getting abused. So they thought this would have had a tremendous benefit, and I did. And when I got to train them, I realized that part of the training is that they are not used to being, or they don't expect to be confronted by an angry person. So role playing is critical when I did for this council. So we did role playing more and more, and to give them the confidence that they needed in order to remain calm and to explain and to actually have a good idea about which safe response what was the safest response they could have as someone being right in front of them, right in front of their faces. So, well, they were very happy. I received a lot of compliments with this council, and then from then on, other councils were also starting ringing me back and saying, I heard that you did this for this council, and can you please do this for us too? Because we also have happened this to us. And look, very good feedback. And out of that, also, there were some owners of coffee shop. There's a coffee shop that has a myriad coffee shops together, and they needed their service staff to know what de-escalation is, what service is, and so I was happy to do that for them.
It's interesting. You said parking officers, librarians, and they're dealing with customers or dealing with their own rage and with the public. It's definitely nowadays, with what I've seen over the years, is that people are just holding it in, and been in survival mode for the last few years. And last year, from my personal observation, people were just releasing.
Absolutely. And that is what rage is. People have not an understanding what rage is. You see, rage actually is a negative emotion that has been suppressed. And it's when it's released in a violent way. It is unleashed without consciousness, and it's not anger, because a lot of people say, oh yeah, no, we have, we have people to deal with angry people. And no, because angry people, you see them coming. You see there's noise, there's gestures, there's arms everywhere, there's a lot of loudness. So it doesn't take a genius to think, oh, this person is very angry. Rage, in fact, is something that explodes, and you had totally unaware when that happened. I usually do this in the course, Leonie. But to do that example, I said to them, this is your emotion, right? Now, this is something that you suppress. There you go. That's rage. It just comes out, and you don't think about it. It just comes out, and it's devastating, right?
So you use the balloon as an analogy, that you sort of hold it in, hold it in, hold it in. And as that balloon
Yes.
expands,
Yes.
pop, and it
Pop.
That's it.
And the thing is, we all have that. We all hold that. You know, it's triggers. When you're aware of the triggers, for example, the scientific community calls it the 5 S's. You know, you got stress, you got sickness, you got sleep, substance, social cues, right? All these are triggers that make that bigger, bigger, bigger. You know, if I can talk a little bit about stress, you know, stress, normal levels of stress, as you know, are part of our everyday living. We need that to get up in the morning, go to work, to go there and do the fighting, you know, get the contract, whatever. You need to put yourself under a little stress. No stress at all is no good either, because you could go into depression, you know. So, but what we talk about is over stress, you know, to the point where, for example, some professions have, like, you know, traffic controllers, you know, pilots, military, even CEOs. They have bigger level of stress than some people, so they will suppress that a lot of the times, and it will affect their health, or it affect their everyday lives. So you would be aware of that. Look, I'm not handling the stress very well. So that's what we do in the workshop. Okay, so how are you as an individual that you know that you don't handle stress very well? And it doesn't have to be high level. You know, you're going to a meeting and you need to arrive there, let's say an hour beforehand. If that makes you very stressed, find parking. It's very stressful. So mitigate that, right? So how do you mitigate your life? Where, you know, you meditate, you take walks by the beach, you see funny movies, so you release and create all those endorphins that make you happy. You know, what makes you happy every day, you know, your children. Make time for you. Make time for you to have that checkpoint, you know, whether it's sickness. Do you feel sick? Do you feel sick? What are you doing about it? Don't just let it roll. Don't just let it be, because that's what happens. What I just saw in the balloon, it just keeps coming. And it can unleash to someone you love. It can unleash on your children, on your neighbor, on your friend, on your brother, your sister. You know, it happens anywhere, you know, but that's the difference, social cues. People, you know, you've seen it before. Now people suffer a lot. They are against lockdown, so they got a lot of pent up emotions, you know.
Now, I am really looking forward to seeing you in a workshop. So tell us about maybe the program or workshop that you have on offer this year.
Yes, look, I call the workshops, I call it different. You know, there's like a 3-part, which I have taken a little bit. I'm putting a little bit one on the other. So it'll be in 3 parts. One, I call it the calm collective, and the middle piece is the peace people. You part of the peaceful people, and the end is the resolution revolution, which means that we finding a resolution out of the square, you know, out of the picture. We're finding a different way to get to that resolution, not through the normal ways that you see every day, you know. But what makes this significant is that all has an ingredient of action intelligence, right? And on purposely, I don't go and create a lot of theoretical things, rather action intelligence, where you put the participant through the paces, give them the skills, and then you let them find their solutions through the skills that you've given them, right? You're talking about voice tone, emotional awareness, situational awareness we go through, you know. Sometimes people don't realize that they're being, let's say, they've been, you know, just a simple example. They've been annoying, and they don't realize why people are shouting at them or complaining about them. But they don't think anything about putting the trolley in the supermarket across and just leaving it there, you know? And then they get into a scuffle and think, why are people at me? But it's not being aware. It's a situational awareness, you know? If you have that in you, you will already be above average, because that means that you are actually anticipating how to go through the environment in a peaceful way. You know, make the situational awareness, make the choice between going through a dark alley or a lit street, right? You know, what are you inviting? You know, being aware of how do you walk through a street? What energy are you showing? What are you giving? Are you giving the walk of a confident person, or are or your energy so low that you're actually inviting an attack? You know,
Yes.
because people that walk, you know, and you could give an example being a military. You look at the way the military walks, you know, and you wouldn't think immediately, oh, that person is vulnerable, or you know, or a policeman or someone who's come. No, you wouldn't think that. So
yes.
That is what we make the participants aware.
Yes.
You're always giving the signals. Always, you're always attracting your reality. Always. So it's, in a way, it's a spiritual human journey. It's bringing back the focus on the individual rather than collectivism. As you know, collectivism is the sacrifice of the individual over the greater good, right? And actually, that has brought a lot of rage in this world, you know, because the individual is left behind, you know, unskilled, you know, totally isolated. So therefore, not able to cope with everyday situations,
yes.
whatever it is.
Look, I love the name of your workshops, and I invite everyone to have a look at Erwin's website if you're interested. I know Erwin and I are working on running a workshop together this year, so stay tuned. I'm not running it, Erwin's running it. I'm supporting him in the journey. And there's two questions before we conclude, and I ask all my guests on the channel about these two questions. So what is a book that you would like to give away, and why?
Well, it's not every. There are two books that I would love to give away. All right. One is a book, and not many people, you probably too a baby to be aware of this, but there was a book called Born to Win. I don't know if you heard about it. Born to Win was the written by John Bertram. It was the skipper of Australia 2 that won the America's Cup for the first time in 100-something years. And what he goes through there, the journey that he went through in order to go against the odds, all the odds you can think of, you know, sportingly wise, culture wise, what he needed to do in order to motivate his crew, motivate his team, and actually go and take the America's Cup from America and the New York Yacht Club, that they had that cup and no one had able to beat them for hundreds of years, right? That is a fantastic motivational book, you know, because you realize how important it is to remain calm once again, because in the last race, and I'm not a yachty, by the way, but in the last race, there were 3-all, and Australia was losing, and there was only one chance for him to make a call, and he did, but that was by remaining calm, you know. And then once again, I got that from that too, you know.
Born to Win.
Born to Win by John Bertram, you know.
And the second book?
And the second book is called Our Cosmic Origin. And it's a book that has been recently released. Our Cosmic Origin is by an author called Ismael Perez. And what is the book says, open your eyes about Earth's place in the multiverse and about a greater organization of the cosmos. So for me, it's almost like it's a spiritual book to find your centeredness here in this human experience, you know, and relate to everyone. We're all one. People. This is how, from my point of view, we're all one family here. You know, it's just that people are different. We come from different races or different cultures, but we're all one family.
I love that. We are all one family. Yeah.
Yeah.
And what is one thing that you would do every day that makes you happy?
Being grateful. I think being grateful for what I have, and being grateful for the blessings that I've been given to even be experiencing this life, you know, being grateful for the family that you have in front of you. So, and also something that makes me happy. And whenever I miss it, I just don't go through the day as good, you know, is I breathe for 3 minutes every day. I stay in a quiet place, and I put the clock, and I just deep breathing for 3 minutes. And that actually feels, you're feeling yourself, your being, with the energy of the universe. And because at the end of the day, we are, but what is 97% of water on chemicals, you know. But our relation to the universe is what is grand, is where humans are great, humans are fantastic, and we're a spirit living a human experience here. That's my belief, you know. So that with me is the connection every day when I breathe and close my eyes and connect with the universe. For me, it's what gives me a great day, and you know, a day of gratefulness, you know.
That's the secret to your success.
I'm a sick. Breathe.
No, breathe. And just 3 minutes of deep breathing can
deep breathing every day.
Difference.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a lot, but believe me, I've done this for a lot of years. And one guru, I remember one guru told me one time that, you know, time is all happens all at once, and it's all there. So all the things that you've dreamed and want in your life, they're already there, but you will never be able to. He said it's like retrieving your emails. You're not able to retrieve them, but the emails are there. You know, if you don't get connected, with the Wi-Fi, you're not gonna get your emails. You know, can you see what I mean? That's the analogy he gave me. You know, yeah. So I try to get connected all the time. So I think my dreams are getting closer and closer. So this restaurant solution for me is something that I want to give to the world. It's a tool that I want to give to humanity for them to be able to cope with the individual journey in this life. You know?
Yes. Thank you, Erwin. It's been a real pleasure to have you on this show, and I am so excited that for you this year and of course the years to come, because I can see your passion and your intention of sharing these tools, raging resolution and customer service excellence, to individuals and companies. And just to everybody who's listening, thank you for following this channel. I'm going to invite other speakers to come on to the show in 2023. And it's the first podcast in the year. So wishing everyone a happy and joyful new year. Thank you very much, Erwin.
Yes, and happy new year to you too, Leonie. It's been a privilege. And I also look forward to more and more connections with you and in the near future. You know.
Thank you.